There is a fundamental truth about power that most men will live and die without ever understanding. It's the belief that your emotional reactions are authentic, that your anger, your anxiety, your need for approval are you. This is the most sophisticated prison ever designed, because the bars are invisible and the warden is your own mind. Today, we are not just talking about stoicism. We are staging a prison break. We will identify the 5 primary emotional reactions that keep you trapped in a cycle of weakness and mediocrity. And for each one, I will give you the precise Stoic tool to dismantle it permanently. This isn't about feeling less. It's about taking back control from the impulses that have been controlling you. What you are about to hear is an operating system for the mind, known only to a select few throughout history and understood by an even smaller fraction of men today. Pay close attention. Because the information in this video, if applied, will represent a fundamental shift in your personal power. Before we begin, I have one question for you to consider. What if your greatest weaknesses were simply habits you were never taught how to break? Let me know your initial thoughts in the comments. Look around you. The modern world is a battlefield for your attention and your emotional stability. Every notification, every news headline, every social media feed is engineered to provoke a reaction. Outrage, envy, fear, desire. You are being psychologically targeted 2,436 times a day by some estimates. The goal is to make you predictable, to make you a consumer of not just products, but of emotions, and it's working. We see men who are slaves to the opinions of strangers, men who are paralyzed by anxiety about a future that hasn't happened, men who burn with anger over things they have zero control over. They believe they are fighting the world, but they are actually just fighting themselves. They are caught in the traps. This is the context in which the modern Stoic operates. He understands that the external world is a storm he cannot stop. But he can, and he must, become the unshakable lighthouse in the center of it. He is not emotionless. He is a master of his emotional output. He chooses his response, and in that choice, he finds his freedom and his strength. This video is the blueprint for building that lighthouse. Let's begin with the first and most common trap. The outrage reflex. This is the knee-jerk reaction of anger, frustration, or indignation toward events, people, or ideas that violate our expectations. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A political headline enrages you. A colleague's incompetence creates more work for you. The reflex is immediate. A surge of adrenaline, a tightening in the chest, a mind clouded by fury. Society tells you this is normal, that it's good to let it out. This is a lie designed to keep you weak. The Stoic understands that outrage is a self-administered poison. It achieves nothing, solves nothing, and burns only the person who feels it. Think of your emotional energy as a finite resource, like money in a bank account. Every time you spend it on outrage, especially over things you cannot control, you are making a withdrawal with zero return on investment. The Stoic sees this not as a moral failing, but as a strategic error. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The man who is easily angered is easily controlled. His enemies know exactly which buttons to push. He is a puppet, and his strings are his own unexamined reactions. The first step to eliminating this reflex is recognizing it for what it is, a voluntary surrender of your power. So, how do we dismantle it? The Stoic tool here is not suppression, but strategic indifference. This is not about becoming a cold, unfeeling robot. It's about consciously deciding what is worthy of your emotional investment. The Stoic practices a mental triage. When an event occurs, he asks one simple question: is this within my control? If the answer is no, the weather, the past, the actions of another person, he consciously practices letting it go. He chooses not to invest his precious energy there. It's like seeing a bad stock and deciding not to buy. This isn't passive. It's an active, powerful choice. Let's use a modern metaphor. Imagine your mind is the CEO of a major corporation. The corporation is your life. Is a good CEO going to halt all operations, scream at his employees, and burn down the office because a rival company put out a negative press release? No. He will note the information, analyse the threat, and focus his energy exclusively on the actions his company can take to win. Your outrage is you burning down your own office. Strategic indifference is the CEO calmly returning to his desk and asking, "What is our next move?" It's a shift from chaotic reaction to disciplined action. This requires practice. The next time you feel that surge of outrage, pause for just 1 second, and in that 1 second, ask the question, is this in my control? If it's not, your new default response should be the phrase, "This is nothing to me." Say it to yourself. This phrase, used by the Stoics, is a cognitive kill switch for the outrage reflex. It's not denying the event happened. It's denying it permission to hijack your inner state. You are acknowledging the storm, but refusing to let the waves crash inside your lighthouse. This is the first mark of a sovereign mind. The myth here is that being passionate and getting angry shows you care. The truth that the 1% of men understand is that true effectiveness comes from a place of calm clarity. You cannot think strategically when your mind is a hurricane of rage. The greatest generals, the most successful CEOs, the most effective leaders, they are not the most outraged. They are the most composed. They see the battlefield for what it is and make their moves with a steady hand. Your life is your battlefield. Choose your state. Consider the cumulative effect. The average man probably spends 30 to 60 minutes a day in a state of low-grade outrage or irritation. That's hundreds of hours a year, thousands of hours a decade, an entire portion of his life. Wasted, burned away on things that do not matter and cannot be changed. The Stoic reclaims that time and energy. He reinvests it into his purpose, his family, his health, his mind. By eliminating this one reaction, he gains a massive competitive advantage in life. Let's make this practical. For the next 7 days, I want you to conduct an outrage audit. Every time you feel anger or frustration, simply note it down. Note the trigger. Was it the news? Another driver? A comment online? At the end of the week, look at that list. And for each item, ask yourself, did my anger improve this situation in any way? The answer, for 99% of the items, will be a resounding no. This simple exercise will make the strategic error of outrage painfully clear to you. Now, it's vital to understand what to do with that reclaimed energy. It doesn't just disappear. You must redirect it. When you feel outrage at an injustice in the world, the undisciplined mind rants. The Stoic mind asks, what virtuous action is within my power right now? Perhaps it's donating to a cause. Perhaps it's teaching your children a better way. Perhaps it's simply improving yourself to be a stronger force for good. The emotion becomes a signal for action, not a license for a tantrum. This transition from reflex to response is difficult. Your brain has been wired for outrage for years, even decades. It's a well-trodden neural pathway. Creating a new pathway requires conscious, repeated effort. But every time you successfully choose indifference over indignation, you strengthen that new path. You are literally rewiring your brain to be more resilient, more powerful, and more effective. You are evolving from a reactive creature to a proactive creator of your reality. One final thought on this first trap. Seneca said, anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. This is the core of the Stoic insight. The initial event is just a spark. Your reaction is the gasoline you pour on it. The 99% are constantly dousing themselves in gasoline. The Stoic simply lets the spark die out. He walks away, unburned and in control, ready for the next challenge. This is not weakness. This is the highest form of mental strength. So the elimination of the outrage reflex is not one action. but a new philosophy of engagement. It's a commitment to protecting your inner peace as your most valuable asset. It's the understanding that a calm mind is the ultimate weapon. As we move to the second emotional trap, you will see how this principle of control is the foundation for everything else. The first step was to stop setting yourself on fire. The next is to stop waiting for a rescue that will never come. This brings us to the second emotional reaction that keeps men trapped: the hope fallacy. This sounds counterintuitive. Isn't hope a good thing? Yes, but the way most people use it is a trap. It's a passive, wishing-based hope. I hope I get that promotion. I hope she likes me. I hope my business succeeds. This kind of hope is a form of mental outsourcing. It places the responsibility for your success on external factors, on luck, on the universe. It's a psychological lottery ticket, and it creates a state of powerless waiting, not powerful action. The Stoic sees this for what it is, a subtle form of cowardice. It's a way to avoid taking full responsibility for the outcomes in your life. The man trapped by the hope fallacy is constantly looking for signs, for good omens, for permission to act. He's waiting for conditions to be perfect. As a result, he rarely takes the decisive action required for significant achievement. He lives in a future that he wishes for, rather than building a present that he commands. It's a comfortable prison, but a prison nonetheless. The Stoic tool to eliminate this is a concept known as prepared action, combined with what is sometimes called rational optimism. The Stoic does not simply hope for the best. He prepares for the worst and then acts to create the best possible outcome. This is rooted in the practice of premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Before undertaking any significant action, the Stoic takes time to visualize everything that could possibly go wrong. He doesn't do this to become anxious. He does it to become prepared. Imagine two generals before a battle. The first general says, "I hope we win." He gives a rousing speech and sends his men into the fight. The second general says, "We will act to win." But first he sits with his commanders and says, "What if it rains and our cannons get stuck in the mud? What if the enemy attacks our left flank instead of the centre? What if our supply lines are cut?" For every potential disaster, he develops a contingency plan. Which general do you want to be? The one who hopes or the one who is prepared? This is not pessimism. This is strategic realism. The man who has contemplated failure is not afraid of it. He has a plan for it. This strips failure of its power to paralyze him. He can then act with a confidence that the man who is merely hoping can never possess. His optimism is not based on wishful thinking, but on his own preparedness. He is confident not because he believes nothing will go wrong, but because he knows he can handle it if it does. The myth here is that positive thinking alone creates positive results. The 1% understand that preparation is the engine of success, and positive thinking is just the fuel. Without the engine, the fuel is useless. The man trapped by the hope fallacy is sitting in a car with a full tank of gas but no engine, wondering why he isn't going anywhere. The Stoic builds the engine first. He puts in the work, creates the systems, and develops the contingency plans. Let's apply this. Choose one major goal you have right now. Instead of just hoping it will work out, perform a premeditatio malorum. Take a piece of paper. On the left side, write down the goal. On the right side, list every single thing that could go wrong. Be brutally honest. Your funding could fall through. Your key partner could quit. The market could change. Don't stop until you have at least 10 potential obstacles. It might feel negative at first, but push through it. Now, for the second, crucial step. Next to each potential obstacle, write down 1 or 2 things you could do to either prevent it from happening or to mitigate its damage if it does. This is where the magic happens. You are transforming vague anxiety into a concrete action plan. You are moving from the passenger seat of hope to the driver's seat of strategy. This document is now your blueprint for resilient action. It is infinitely more valuable than 1,000 positive affirmations. This practice fundamentally changes your relationship with the future. The future ceases to be a source of anxiety and becomes a territory to be navigated. You expect obstacles, you welcome them even, because each one you've anticipated and planned for is another testament to your foresight and preparation. This is the difference between a boy who wishes upon a star and a man who builds a rocket ship to get there. It is the active pursuit of a desired future, not the passive waiting for it. This leads to a state the Stoics called euthymia, a sense of inner tranquility that comes from knowing you are on the right path and are prepared for the journey. It's a quiet confidence. The man who has done a premeditatio malorum walks differently. He speaks differently. He isn't rattled by setbacks because he already met them in his mind and planned his response. He has eliminated the emotional trap of fragile hope and replaced it with the bedrock of anti-fragile preparation. So the Stoic doesn't reject hope entirely. He redefines it. For the Stoic, hope is not a feeling, but a verb. It is the disciplined action you take today to make a better tomorrow more likely. It is the extra hour of study. It is the difficult conversation you have now to prevent a crisis later. It is the contingency plan you make. Hope is the result of your work, not the prerequisite for it. This is a profound shift that 99% of men will never make. By escaping the hope fallacy, you reclaim agency over your future. You stop being a spectator in your own life. You become the strategist, the planner, the architect. You have stopped waiting for the path to appear and have started paving it yourself. We have now dealt with our reactions to the external world and the future. Now we must turn inward and confront the third trap, the one that ties our self-worth to the whims of others. The third emotional trap is perhaps the most insidious. The validation urge. This is the deep-seated need for external approval, praise, and recognition from others. It's the reason people check their phones for likes seconds after posting. It's the reason men buy things they don't need to impress people they don't like. It's the constant nagging question in the back of the mind. What will they think of me? This urge turns a man into a marionette with his strings pulled by the opinions of his boss, his peers, his partner, and even complete strangers on the internet. The man trapped by the validation urge lives his life on a stage, performing for an audience. He can never be truly free because his sense of self-worth is rented, not owned. It is granted to him by others and can be taken away at any moment. This leads to a life of compromise, of muted authenticity, and of quiet desperation. He will not take risks, speak his mind, or pursue his true purpose if it risks disapproval from the tribe. He is, in a very real sense, a slave to the collective. The Stoic tool to sever these strings is the concept of the inner scorecard. It's the radical idea that the only judgment that truly matters is your own. The Stoic cultivates a powerful internal framework for what is good, what is right, and what is virtuous. His self-worth is based on his adherence to his own principles, not on the applause of the crowd. He is playing for an audience of one, himself. As Seneca wrote, "I have to die. If it is now, well then, I die now. If later, then now I will take my lunch, since the hour for lunch has arrived, and dying I will tend to later." He lived by his schedule, his principles, not by the world's demands. Imagine your life as a work of art. The man seeking validation is constantly running out to the crowd, holding up his unfinished canvas and asking, "Do you like it? Should I add more blue here? Is this what you want to see?" He will create a confused, mediocre mess that pleases no one, least of all himself. The Stoic stays in his studio. He has a clear vision for his masterpiece, his character. He works on it diligently, every day. He judges it against his own high standards. Whether the world loves it or hates it when it is finally unveiled is irrelevant. He knows he created something of integrity and worth. The myth perpetuated by society is that being liked is the same as being respected. The 1% of men understand that this is false. Respect is earned by consistency, by integrity, by having a strong inner compass. You will never be respected by everyone, but you will be respected by the people who matter if you stand for something. And that begins with respecting yourself enough to live by your own code, not by polling the opinions of others. True confidence is not the belief that they will like me. It is the knowledge that I will be fine if they don't. So how do you start building this inner scorecard? First, you must define your principles. Take an hour this week, no distractions, and write down the answers to these questions. What does it mean for me to be a good man? What are my non-negotiable values? What principles will I refuse to violate, even if it costs me socially or financially? This is the constitution for your inner republic. It must be written down. A man without written principles is a man who can be convinced of anything. Once you have your principles, you must practice living by them. This is the daily work of the Stoic. At the end of each day, instead of judging your day by how many compliments you received or how much you were liked, conduct a Stoic review. Ask yourself, where did I uphold my principles today? Where did I fall short? Did I act with courage, discipline, and integrity? This is your new metric for success. It's a game you can win every single day, regardless of external circumstances. You are shifting the locus of control from the outside world to your own character. This will be uncomfortable at first. The urge for validation is a powerful primal instinct. When you first start ignoring it, your brain will scream in protest. You will feel the fear of being judged, of being ostracized. This is the moment of truth. This is where you must choose your master, the fleeting opinions of others or the timeless strength of your own character. As Epictetus, a former slave, powerfully stated, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. He understood that the path to inner freedom requires a period of external discomfort. Consider the freedom this gives you. The man with an inner scorecard can pursue ambitious goals without fear of failure, because he judges himself on the effort, not the result. He can speak his truth without fear of censure, because his self-worth isn't on the line. He can build deeper, more authentic relationships because he isn't constantly performing. He is solid. He is an oak tree in a world of reeds, swaying with every gust of public opinion. He possesses a quiet gravity that people find themselves drawn to. One practical technique is to actively seek out small, controlled acts of social discomfort. Wear a slightly mismatched pair of socks. Ask a stupid question in a meeting that you genuinely need the answer to. Order your coffee in a slightly unusual way. These are small inoculations against the fear of judgment. They teach your brain, on a neurological level, that social disapproval is not fatal. In fact, it's usually completely ignored by everyone else who is trapped in their own mind worrying about what you think of them. Ultimately, escaping the validation urge is about understanding that you are the only person who has to live with your choices and your character 24 hours a day. The people whose opinions you worry about will forget about you in 5 minutes. Your integrity, however, will be with you until your last breath. Who are you really living for? The Stoic answers unequivocally, for the best version of myself. This is the foundation of self-mastery. With this foundation, we can now tackle the future. We have now fortified ourselves against the judgment of others, but there is another judge, a harsher one, that keeps men trapped, the anxious mind that judges the future. This brings us to the fourth emotional trap, the anxiety spiral. This is the state of mind that constantly catastrophizes about the future. It's the what-if disease. What if I lose my job? What if I get sick? What if this presentation goes badly? This is not the strategic planning of premeditatio malorum. This is a destructive, looping pattern of fear that generates immense stress without producing any solutions. The man caught in an anxiety spiral is living in a horror movie that he is directing, producing, and starring in. He is fighting ghosts of his own creation. This state of mind is incredibly draining. It saps your energy, clouds your judgment, and prevents you from being present and effective in the one place where you actually have power, the here and now. Anxiety is a tax on your mental bandwidth, and most men are paying it at an exorbitant rate. They are spending today's strength worrying about tomorrow's shadows. The Stoics' ultimate weapon against this is perhaps their most famous concept, the dichotomy of control. It is the simple yet life-changing practice of dividing every situation into two categories, things you can control and things you cannot. The Stoic then makes a conscious, ruthless decision to focus 100% of his energy on what he can control and to accept what he cannot. As Epictetus taught, the chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Let's use the metaphor of an archer. A master archer knows that he can control certain things: his training, his breathing, the way he holds the bow, the moment he releases the arrow. He focuses intently on perfecting every one of these elements. However, once the arrow leaves the bow, he cannot control the sudden gust of wind, the movement of the target, or a bird flying in the way. The amateur archer worries about the wind. He gets angry at the wind. His performance suffers. The Stoic master focuses on his form, releases the arrow perfectly, and accepts the outcome, whatever it may be. He has done his part. Most anxiety comes from focusing on the flight of the arrow, not on the release. You worry about whether the interviewer will like you, uncontrollable, instead of focusing on preparing your answers and dressing professionally, controllable. You worry about whether the stock market will crash, uncontrollable, instead of focusing on your saving and investment strategy, controllable. The anxiety spiral is almost always a result of misplacing your focus onto things you have no power to change. The myth that fuels anxiety is the idea that worrying is a productive activity, that if you worry about something enough, you can somehow prevent it from happening. The 1% of men understand that worry is the opposite of productive. It is a form of mental rehearsal for failure. Action is the only true antidote to anxiety, and the dichotomy of control is the tool that tells you exactly where to act. It cuts through the fog of worry and gives you a clear, actionable target for your energy. Here is a powerful exercise you can do anytime you feel anxiety rising. It's called circling your control. Take a piece of paper and write down the thing you are worried about in the center. Now draw a large circle around it. Inside the circle, write down every single aspect of that situation that is within your direct, immediate control. Outside the circle, write down everything that is not. For example, if you're worried about a doctor's appointment, inside the circle might be write down my symptoms, prepare questions for the doctor, arrange transport. Outside the circle would be the test results, the doctor's opinion, the diagnosis. Once you have this map, you make a pact with yourself. You will focus all of your energy and attention only on the items inside the circle. You will take action on them, one by one, and you will practice radical acceptance of the items outside the circle. You will treat them as you would the weather, as a condition of reality to be navigated, not a personal failure to be agonized over. This simple act can reduce a mountain of amorphous anxiety into a small, manageable list of tasks. It is a reclaiming of power. This practice also has a profound impact on your ability to be present. When you are not constantly time-traveling to a disastrous future, you can fully engage with the present moment. You notice more, you listen better, you perform at a higher level. The Stoics understood that the point of power is the present. The past is ashes, the future is smoke. Only the present moment is a fire you can tend to. The anxiety spiral is a thief that robs you of your only true possession, the now. This doesn't mean you never think about the future. The premeditatio malorum we discussed earlier is a form of future planning. But notice the difference. The anxiety spiral is passive, repetitive, and emotional. Stoic planning is active, strategic, and rational. One is a hamster wheel spinning in place, the other is a map, charting a course forward. The man who masters the dichotomy of control can look to the future with calm preparedness, not with trembling fear. Embracing the dichotomy of control means you stop arguing with reality. You stop wasting energy wishing things were different. You accept the world as it is, and then you focus on what you can do to shape your corner of it. This is the source of the legendary Stoic calm. It is not an absence of problems. It is the presence of a clear, focused mind that knows where to apply its strength. It is the peace that comes from doing your part and letting the universe do its. By dismantling the anxiety spiral, you liberate a vast amount of mental and emotional resources. You become more resilient, more focused, and more effective. You stop being the victim of a future you can't predict, and you become the agent of a present you can command. But there is one final trap, one that chains us not to the future, but to the past, and it is the heaviest chain of all. This brings us to the fifth and final emotional trap, the one that poisons the present with the venom of the past, the resentment anchor. This is the act of clinging to past wrongs, injustices and hurts. It's replaying old arguments in your mind. It's harbouring a grudge against someone who wronged you years ago. It's the bitterness you feel over a past failure or a path not taken. Each of these resentments is an anchor, and the man who carries them is trying to sail forward while dragging the seabed behind him. Progress is impossible. The man trapped by resentment believes he is punishing the other person by holding on to his anger. He thinks his bitterness is a weapon pointed at them. The Stoic sees the truth. Resentment is a poison you drink, hoping the other person will die. It harms only yourself. It occupies valuable mental real estate that could be used for growth, for planning, for joy. It keeps you tethered to a past you cannot change, preventing you from creating a future you can. It is a slow-motion suicide of the spirit. The Stoic tool to cut this anchor chain is one of the most profound and challenging concepts, amor fati, or a love of one's fate. This is not a passive resignation. It is an active, powerful embrace of everything that has happened in your life, the good, the bad, the ugly. As necessary and even desirable is the belief that every event, every obstacle, every betrayal was a crucial part of the path that forged you into the man you are today. It is not just accepting the past, it is loving it. Nietzsche, a later philosopher deeply influenced by the Stoics, framed it this way: "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity, not merely bear what is necessary, still less conceal it, but love it." Think of it like a blacksmith forging a sword. The sword is hammered, heated in fire, plunged into icy water. These are violent, painful events, but they are what turn a lump of brittle iron into a strong, flexible blade. Your past hardships are the fire and the hammer. Resentment is the sword wishing it had never been forged. This is a radical reframe. The man trapped by resentment sees obstacles as things that happened to him. The Stoic, practicing amor fati, sees them as things that happened for him. That business that failed, it taught you lessons you could not have learned any other way. That person who betrayed you, they revealed the importance of choosing your circle wisely and showed you your own resilience. Every wound becomes a source of strength. Every scar becomes a map. The myth here is that forgiveness is a gift you give to the other person. The 1% of men understand that forgiveness, or better yet, the Stoic practice of simply seeing the event as necessary and moving on, is a gift you give to yourself. It is the act of putting down a heavy weight you have been carrying. It's not about condoning what happened. It's about refusing to let it continue, to occupy space in your head, rent-free. It's a declaration of your own freedom. A practical way to begin practicing amor fati is to take one past event you resent, write it down, then force yourself to list at least 3 positive things that came out of it, or 3 valuable lessons you learned because of it. Perhaps the loss of a job forced you to discover a more fulfilling career path. Perhaps a difficult breakup taught you what you truly need in a partner. This exercise is not about pretending the pain wasn't real. It's about consciously choosing to focus on the growth that the pain enabled. Another powerful Stoic idea related to this is to see every obstacle not as a barrier, but as a new path. This is the art of turning the obstacle upside down. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. When you are blocked, that is not the end of the road. The block itself is now your road. Your task is to figure out how to use it, how to go over, under, or through it. A man who thinks this way cannot be stopped. Every setback is just a new set of instructions." Think about the energy that is liberated when you drop the anchor of resentment. All the mental cycles spent replaying old hurts are now available for present moment action. You become lighter, faster, more forward-looking. You stop being a historian of your own grievances and become an architect of your future. This is what it means to be psychologically free. You have made peace with your past, not by changing it, but by changing your relationship to it. This is the final piece of the Stoic operating system. First, we stopped reacting with outrage to the present. Second, we stopped waiting passively for the future with the hope fallacy. Third, we disconnected our self-worth from the opinions of others. Fourth, we stopped catastrophizing about the future with the anxiety spiral. And now we have cut the anchor chaining us to the past. The system is complete. You are now free to operate in the present moment with clarity, purpose, and power. Embracing amor fati is the ultimate expression of the dichotomy of control. The past is the one thing that is most definitively outside of your control. To fight it, to resent it, is the definition of insanity. To love it, to see it as the perfect sculptor of your current self, is the highest form of wisdom. It is the final lock to be picked in the prison of emotional reactivity. It is the key that opens the door to a life of profound strength and tranquility. This is not easy. It may be the hardest work you ever do, but the reward is immeasurable. It is the power to look at your entire life, with all its triumphs and all its tragedies, and to say with genuine conviction, "I would not have it any other way." A man who can do that is unbreakable. He is the master of his own universe. He has eliminated the final trap. We have journeyed through the 5 prisons of the mind: the outrage reflex, the hope fallacy, the validation urge, the anxiety spiral, and the resentment anchor. And for each, we have found the Stoic key: strategic indifference, prepared action, the inner scorecard, the dichotomy of control, and amor fati. These are not just interesting ideas. This is an operating system for human freedom. The one single truth that connects them all is this: your power is not in controlling the world, but in controlling your response to it. The world will always be chaotic. People will always be unpredictable. Fortune will always be fickle. But your mind, your choices, your character, these are yours to command. This is the only territory worth conquering, and the only battle that ultimately matters. You now possess the blueprint. The choice to remain a prisoner of your reactions or to become the architect of your soul is now and always yours. The 99% will hear this and do nothing. They will continue to be tossed on the waves of their emotions. But for the few who are ready, for you who have stayed to the end, the work begins now. Thank you for your time and your intellectual investment today. If this framework resonated with you, subscribe and join the small circle of men dedicated to this path. And now, I have a final question for you. Of the 5 emotional reactions we discussed, which one has had the tightest grip on you? And what is the first step you will take today to begin loosening it? Declare your intention in the comments below. Take the first step.